On May 19th, 2020, at exactly 11:06 a.m., a distressing 911 call was received by the Kenosha County Sheriff's Office.
Kenosha 911, what's the address for emergency?
So I was doing a wellness check on a good friend of mine that I was dating, and I found it weird because I haven't talked to him for like 24 hours. And I just went to his house, and his screen door is wide open, and I just pulled the
Okay, were you able to see inside?
Yeah, I pulled the blinds back, and there's blood all over the floor in the living room. And
Did you see him at all anywhere?
I didn't go any further. Oh my God. Sorry. Something's not right. That's not normal.
Patrol officers were first to arrive at 3709 15th Street in Kenosha, Wisconsin. They were met by Sadie Beecham, the same woman who had called 911. Sadie told them that this was the residence of 40-year-old Rosalio Gutierrez, her new romantic partner. She had met Rosalio through Facebook's online dating feature a few months earlier. The last time she heard from him was a text message that he had sent 2 days before, on the evening of May 17th, saying that he had planned on stopping by a friend's house. After 2 days of radio silence, she decided to check up on him to make sure he was okay. When she arrived, she noticed that both of his vehicles were parked in the driveway and that the patio door was wide open. She called for Rosalio, but he did not answer. She then peered through the door and noticed a large pool of blood on the living room carpet. She immediately dialed 911. When asked if there was anyone she knew who would want to hurt Rosalio, she outed her ex of 12 years and father of her children, 41-year-old Zachariah Anderson. The two had been broken up for 6 months, and Zach had been stalking her ever since. Once Sadie provided her statement to the police, the officers then proceeded to enter the house through the patio door. There was blood all over the room, even on the ceiling. While inspecting the blood on the carpet, investigators noticed that the stain was oddly shaped. Right in the center, where the carpet should be the most saturated, there was no blood. Detectives considered the possibility that the victim's body might have been wrapped in an area rug and then carried out of the residence. There were no apparent signs of a forced entry and no valuables missing from the home, suggesting that this was not a burglary, but rather a personal attack. Police made efforts to track down Rosalio's phone, but it appeared to be turned off. Additionally, there had been no recent transactions recorded on Rosalio's bank cards. At around 4:30 p.m. on May 19th, the same day that Rosalio was reported missing, Sadie was brought to the Kenosha County Sheriff's Office for an interview. Sadie explained that when she told her daughter Olivia that Rosalio was missing, her immediate reaction was to divulge several shady secrets about her father, Zach.
She's 12. 12? Yeah, and she kept saying, Mom, I know stuff, Mom. And I'm just like...
She wouldn't tell you that?
Please wait. Well, she told me about the registration. She told me about the videotaping, and she told me to change my password. She told me that he hacked into her school computer. She told me, he can hack. Then she told me on the drive here that he can pick locks. It's very narcissistic.
Yeah. Manipulating.
A good example of Zach being manipulative occurred on Olivia's 12th birthday, just 2 months earlier. On that day, Zach told Olivia that he had a surprise for her and told her to get in the car. He then took her to a vantage point outside of Sadie's house and told her to look in the window. To Olivia's surprise, another man, who she would later know to be Rosalio, was in the house. Zach then said, "Watch this." He exited the vehicle, went up to Rosalio's truck, broke in, and stole his vehicle registration. The day after this incident, Zach told Sadie he was having premonitions that she was seeing another man.
At some point, he rattled off his name, and he's like, I see Rosalio Gutierrez. Yeah, that's his name, that's it. He's Mexican, and he described him perfectly. He was telling me that he had all these premonitions of me, the visions, that he didn't actually videotape me, but he had visions that this was happening, and this usually happens in a breakup, he said.
And this was at the birthday party?
This was after Olivia left and we were outside talking, yeah.
Eventually, Olivia told Sadie about the late-night trip to spy on her and Rosalio.
She's like, you should probably tell your friend to do something because Dad took his registration out of his truck. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, how do you know? She's like, because I saw it, and he's not planning on giving it back. He said he was going to maybe have him followed for fun or something like that. So then I told Rosalio, but now he knows where you live. And he's like, well, I'll just probably keep my doors locked.
Sadie spent the rest of this interview giving multiple in-depth anecdotes of Zach's controlling behavior, including a time that he recruited Olivia for an espionage operation against her mother.
We all went over to my friend Becky's house. As we were leaving, I lifted up the blanket and I find the burner phone next to Olivia. And I'm like, what are you doing with that phone? And she's like, well, you're not supposed to know that I have it. And I'm like, why, what? And she's like, well, Dad wanted me to record you. I'm like, doing what? She's like, anytime you got upset or you yelled or anything, he wanted me to record you. He's trying to take us from you, Mom. I'm like, okay.
At this point, Olivia was allowed to enter the room to see her mom.
This is too much. This is way too much, babe. This is way too much.
Why don't we call Dad? Because he wants me to check in with him every day. And what if there's like background noise that we can hear or something? But it's a good idea because then if someone is in the background, then you can hear like them going, or you can hear them scream or something.
I don't think Dad is with him, sweetheart.
Where do you think he is?
Don't know. And maybe not even alive anymore. That scares the out of me.
We have more than enough to charge stalking, okay? And I think we should proceed with that.
Is there a way that I could call my father? I mean, like, not investigating anything, but like, to see if like you could hear anything in the background of it?
Yeah, we're not gonna
Like that.
do that right now.
I'm so scared.
I know you are. I know you are.
Why don't you give Mom a hug, huh?
Yeah.
Following this interview, authorities arrested and charged Zach for stalking and harassment, as well as coercing a minor. They confiscated his phone and he was brought into the interrogation room for questioning.
So we're investigating a case of stalking involving your children's mother, Sadie.
Sure.
All right. So that's what we want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Can you kind of tell me what's going on with, like, what's up with your guys' relationship? What's been happening, going on?
Zach told the detectives that Sadie had always been a great partner and mother up until about 6 months ago. Out of nowhere, she became a wild card, going out to bars, making major accusations against Zach, and dating a plethora of random men. He then admitted to going over to her house one night and personally seeing her with one of these men.
Okay. How did you know there was someone else there?
Premonition or weird feeling when I talked to her, you know.
Who was it?
Huh?
Who was it?
Some Mexican guy.
Did you take pictures?
No.
Did you take video?
No.
Take audio recording?
No.
Nothing.
No, so you had the same bullshit accusations. No, I
What did
didn't.
you hear?
Nothing. I heard, saw them laughing, saw them, doing their thing or whatever the hell, and okay. They had the music on and they're doing whatever they do.
The detectives started confronting Zach with some of the claims Olivia and Sadie made about him, but he seemed to have an answer for everything, even making his own accusations against Sadie.
Sadie was slapped in the face to discipline her when she was young. She stands the boys up against the wall and hits them on their arms and legs, so it looks like they're fighting and stuff like that. And then she calls me and she's got the boys in the background, owie, 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 getting hit by Mom. And I'm like, I'm not hitting them. I'm not taking the blankets away at night. If I put my kids to bed, I'll just lay down with
What does
them.
this whole thing have to do with putting a cell phone somewhere that night?
So what happens is I give her one of my old phones so she can record what's going on. So I have some evidence. And then so yes, there are cell phones, but I didn't put a cell phone anywhere for that purpose. I gave it to my daughter to record when she's being abused or when the boys are being abused. As far as her stories or what's going on, I'm not hacking her cell phone. I'm not hacking her email. I'm not hacking her shit. I'm not stalking her. There's some things that I checked. I would love to catch her, getting high with her boyfriend just so I could say to the court, I deserve custody of my kids because this is how she spends 3 days a week. My kids shouldn't be taken to the bar. And it's just a bloody mess,
As Zach worked to paint Sadie as an abuser and his own daughter as a pathological liar, the detectives felt that his claims weren't adding up. They then asked him to recount his activity over the past 48 hours, a question he seemed to struggle with.
I'm tired as fuck, man, and you're asking me and I'm trying to not blur the days.
You remember everything in detail for the last 4 months, dude.
No, I don't remember everything. I remember some things. I remember the gist of things more than anything. I'm not a detailed guy. I gotta write things down, you know, keep a little journal and shit.
Where's that?
It's on my computer.
What computer is it? Is it Apple, notebook, iPad, anything like that?
I don't know how the fuck you'd be going for my journal on my computer. I'd be happy to show you. I'd be happy to send them to you or whatever, but it's almost like a threat about the computer, and that's peculiar to me. Dude, get me a lawyer. Take me home. You pick. This is crazy. This is fucking nuts. I didn't do shit. I don't know what you want from me. This is crazy. I don't think I crossed any fucking lines.
All right. So what's gonna happen is the officer's gonna take you over across the street. 40 hours, you'll have a preliminary hearing for
what?
stalking. Office.
I didn't do shit to her. What are you talking
So
about?
that's what's happening tonight.
This is fucking bananas, you guys.
All right.
For stalking? Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck?
Following this interrogation, officers went through Zach's phone and quickly discovered conversations between him and Sadie that were recorded without her knowledge or consent.
I just told you, it hurts. I'm jealous. I've confirmed that you've taken an interest in other guys, and I've painfully enough. I've
already done.
Yep.
When I told you I was.
Yep, you're done. Great. And the guy that stole the mother of my child.
Buddy, he didn't steal anything.
Yeah, all right.
And I wasn't yours to fucking steal. Wasn't yours to steal.
You're not listening to me.
Evidence that you were fucking stalking me.
I'm not stalking you.
You did. Here, in the middle of the fucking night. You're lying to me.
Along with this audio recording, they also found a video from the night that he and Olivia saw Sadie and Rosalio together.
Do you take pictures? No. You take video? No.
Zach had blatantly lied to the detectives about taking this video. If he was willing to lie about this, perhaps he was willing to lie about having Rosalio's belongings as well. Authorities were able to obtain a search warrant for Zach's property in Mequon, Wisconsin, which was executed on May 21st, 2020. A still smoldering fire pit was found on the property, with burnt pieces of clothing, bleach bottles, and a pair of boots inside. While it's possible that these items belonged to Rosalio, there was no blood or DNA found on them, so there was no way to connect them to the crime. Zach's minivan was also discovered on the property. Upon inspecting the interior, they immediately noticed the smell of bleach, and that a section of the carpet from the back of the vehicle had been cut out. Also, on the rear doorpost, they found a minuscule speck of what appeared to be blood. Additionally, on the floor at the front of the vehicle was a Walmart receipt which indicated the purchase of several items the morning after Rosalio's disappearance. These items included several personal hygiene products, 3 cans of sardines, 2 packages of hefty 13-gallon garbage bags, 2 boxes of latex gloves, and 2 containers of Clorox bleach wipes. The minivan was also transported to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab for forensic analysis. While investigators awaited the results, they visited the Walmart location found on the receipt. The store's surveillance footage confirmed that Zach had visited the Walmart during the early morning hours of May 18th. This footage shows Zach arriving at the store around 8 a.m. He is then seen walking up and down the aisles collecting the items from the receipt. After making his purchase with cash, he is seen exiting the building and running a stop sign as he drives away from the parking lot. Using Zach's cell phone GPS data, police confirmed that he traveled from the Walmart to a work site in the village of Cedar Grove, where he spent 3 hours working. Apparently, after that, all they know is that Zach claims to have stayed at his new girlfriend's house that night. His whereabouts between Cedar Grove and his girlfriend's house during this gap was unknown. Coincidentally, his work site is about 5 miles away from a tree farm that his family owns in Random Lake, Wisconsin. Investigators suspected that this is where Zach went after working in Cedar Grove, potentially to bury Rosalio's body. This led police to obtain another search warrant, this time for the tree farm property. In order to thoroughly search such a large property, authorities brought in a plethora of reinforcements, including a K-9 unit, ATVs, the FBI, and drones. The dogs were quickly able to find another burn pit, and inside this burn pit were bone remnants. Unfortunately, this wasn't the bombshell evidence that investigators initially thought. The bones were examined and turned out to be the remains of a pig. Although the search team had hit a dead end, the crime lab was hard at work, and on May 29, 2020, the results were in. The results confirmed that the blood at Rosalio's home and the speck in Zach's vehicle matched Rosalio's DNA profile. This was a major breakthrough for the investigation, but without a body, prosecuting Zach would be especially difficult. So, So, police continued their investigation over the next 7 months, making a disturbing discovery along the way. On Zach's laptop, they found a folder labeled Rosalio Gutierrez. This folder contained photos of Rosalio, screenshots of online court records about him, photos of his business information, and electronic maps of his residence. With the mounting evidence against Zach, authorities felt confident proceeding with murder charges against him. On December 11th, 2020, Zachariah Anderson was charged with the murder of Rosalio Gutierrez. Zach spent just over 2 years in prison leading up to his trial, and on February 28th, 2023, his trial began. The prosecution came out swinging, delivering a captivating opening statement that told the jury exactly why they believed Zach was a calculated killer. They focused on Zach's controlling behavior, his history of manipulating his own daughter, and his obsession with Rosalio. On the other hand, the defense argued that the prosecution was portraying Zach as the bad guy, relying on weak evidence and withholding important details in order to support their narrative. They reminded the jury that there was a very limited amount of substantial evidence. There was no body, no weapon, no fingerprints, no witnesses, and ultimately no way to directly tie Zach to Rosalio's death. They also suggested that the investigation was botched because detectives honed in on Zach the entire time, instead of investigating several other reasonable leads. After the opening statements, the prosecution called a man named Marquand Washington, a fellow inmate of Zach's, who claimed that Zach had actually confessed to him.
I was laying there and I was reading my book and I heard him shout in his sleep before he woke himself up.
And what did he shout that you heard?
He said, "Die, die, die, motherfucker." I told him to look me in my eyes and tell me that you didn't do it. And he jumped down from the bed and he looked me in my eyes and he said, "I did it." He said, "That's the reason I have the nightmares. I'm unable to sleep at night because I think about it all the time."
At some point, what nickname did you hear people address the defendant with occasionally?
A lot of times people would say Houdini or Zach Houdini or, just telling me about who my cellie was.
And did the defendant talk about why people were calling him Houdini and describe, what that was about to you?
Yes, he said they called him Houdini because of his case, basically because he made a body disappear, they say, and everybody called him Houdini because of it.
What did the defendant tell you about how he committed the case that he's charged with and what the circumstances were?
He said that he had seen this person, and he said he stabbed him, and he blacked out. He said he stabbed him, and I just blacked out. And he said he eventually wrapped the body up in garbage bags and got rid of the trash. He threw the trash out. Okay. And I asked him, what did he mean by that? And I said, what, like dumpster or trash? And he said, once it's gone, it's gone.
Why would he end this person's life?
He said to get back at his kid's mother. He was angry with a bunch of different things, but he said she kind of bragged about this other guy and that she was happy. He didn't really want his kids around that.
As compelling as Marquand's story was, the defense suggested that he was only testifying against Zach in order to reduce his sentence.
You agree to provide substantial assistance to the government, and then they decide whether or not it's substantial, right?
I believe so.
And then they decide if it is substantial in their view, that they will file a motion with the court to go below the mandatory minimums, right?
Well, I believe so.
And unless they file that motion, you're going to get the 10 years, right?
I believe so.
So any cooperation you provide, whether it's a debrief in front of agents or testimony in live court, it better be happy. It better make the government happy, or they're not going to file that motion, right?
I believe so.
After shining a light on Marquand's potentially deceptive testimony, the prosecution then called Zach's daughter Olivia to the stand. Due to being a minor, the cameras did not capture her statement, but the audio was still rolling. Many people watching this trial were sympathetic for a young girl in such traumatic circumstances, but there were multiple moments in her testimony that nearly led to a mistrial. For example, during a line of questioning about a gun that Zach owned, Olivia lashed out at the defense.
I don't handle guns like that.
You said guns like that. What do you
meaning I don't know. Meaning I'm not familiar with guns like that, but I can tell you there was one.
What color was it?
Black.
Was it long, short? Can you describe with your hands?
It was short. It was probably a pistol of some sort. I'm not sure.
Okay, where did you see it?
It was at the Mech 1 house.
So you say that this unregistered gun is in California to law enforcement. Up until today, did you ever say anything about this gun being in Wisconsin?
When I had talked about this gun, there were other traumatic events going on in my life, so this isn't...
You don't have to defend your answer.
I'm trying not to defend it. It's what happened. It's legitimately what happened. Like, there were other things going on, and this isn't something that's related even to this situation.
But if you listen, don't take this as a scolding. I'm saying listen carefully to the question and just try to answer just the question. And if there's more to be gone into, the lawyers will usually cover it.
I was threatened with that gun, for your information.
It was later clarified to the jury that Olivia's claim of being threatened with the gun was in no way related to the case and was to be disregarded. The trial took place over 16 days, and both the prosecution and the defense put forth very compelling arguments. The prosecution would stick to their guns and state that the speck of blood found in Zach's vehicle was more than enough evidence to throw Zach away. On the other hand, the defense would challenge the state's experts, pointing out that the so-called speck of blood was not even confirmed to be blood. The sample was so small that the crime lab chose not to do any tests to determine the kind of human tissue it was. Put simply, the only piece of physical evidence that the prosecution was grasping onto was not reliable. On March 20th, 2023, the trial concluded and the jury was sent to deliberate. After just 2 days, a verdict was reached.
In the rate of matter, State of Wisconsin versus Zachariah Joseph Anderson, as to the first count of the information, we, the jury, find the defendant, Zachariah Anderson, guilty of assaulting Sadie Beecham as charged. As to the second count of the information, we, the jury, find the defendant, Zachariah Anderson, guilty of stalking Rosalio Gutierrez as charged. As to the third count of the information, we, the jury, find the defendant, Zachariah Anderson, guilty of intentional homicide of the third degree as charged. As to the fourth count of the information, we, the jury, find the defendant, Zachariah Anderson, guilty of hiding in court as charged.
Zachariah Anderson was found guilty on all counts. On May 16th, 2023, he received his sentence.
It is the sentence of the court that your custody be committed to the Department of Corrections for confinement in the Wisconsin state prisons for the remainder of your life. This sentence is consecutive to and not concurrent with the sentences on the other 3 counts.
While the majority of people tuning into this trial were happy with the outcome, there is a considerable amount of people who sincerely believe that Zach is innocent. For example, here is an excerpt from freezachariahanderson.org. His guilty verdict was a true miscarriage of justice created by a multi-layer system of failures, including a false accusation, a poor police investigation jaded by confirmation bias, a corrupt district attorney, a media campaign to taint the potential jury pool, a judge unfit to stand trial, and a handful of witnesses willing to perjure themselves for their own gain. Zachariah Anderson is currently appealing his conviction. He resides in the Department of Corrections, Wisconsin State Prison. The Kenosha Police Department continues to look for the remains of Rosalio Gutierrez. As of today, there is a $10,000 reward for anybody who helps find him.